The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Phixated Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the new intro. Cut out some of the dead parts, got some nice music behind it. I think Azzy and I are digging it, so hopefully you like that. So for those of you on YouTube, you're going to notice some differences immediately. But for those on the podcast, we'll talk about those differences in a second. But just to, again, plug the YouTube channel, we'll be putting all the episodes on YouTube from now on. Please go check us out. Just search Birdies and Beer Podcast on YouTube. We'll be the first channel that pops up. Make sure you subscribe for all the content that'll be coming in terms of podcast episodes. We got other plans for some other videos to throw up there. So make sure you get subscribed to the channel. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, because those are certainly not going away. And follow the new Twitter account, at Phixated Pod. We got that on Twitter. Azzy's been throwing up some good takes on there, some funny stuff, So make sure you stay tuned in for Super Bowl and NFL draft and MLB offseason, all the good stuff that's happening. But as always, we can't go too much farther without saying hello to the host of our show, Mr. Mike Azzalina. Azzy, how are you tonight, buddy? How's everything going? We're going to get into how your night's been going, but in general, how you doing?
I'm doing really well, man. We're in the animal room tonight, so
I love changed. It. You were going to blur the background, and I told you don't do it. I said I love the animals.
Yeah, got the animal pictures up. Collector of these animal photos that we find every year at the Harrisburg Arts Fest. And we always stop at this guy's booth because he has these crazy pictures and stories that go along with him. So we're in the animal room tonight. Don't have the basement completely set up, so I had to use the setup up here tonight. So we're hanging out with some new equipment, Regz.
God, you sound good. You sound sultry. You sound like you're supposed to be doing this. I love it. And it wasn't hard. It wasn't hard at all to do, right, Azzy? It wasn't hard at all to do.
I mean, this stinking USB microphone, we are recording a half hour later because it took me a half hour to get this thing to work to the point where I could both hear Regz and he could hear me. So here we are. It's now 10 o'clock instead of actually 8:30 was the original intent to start recording. But we've had a couple of moments of we might not get this done tonight.
We went from I can't do it tonight to I got a snow day, so let's do it, to me going like, no, dude, like it's cool. If you got something to do, like it's fine. We'll do what we got to do. We'll get it recorded this week. Yep. To know everything's fine, to crap, the microphone doesn't work and we can't hear each other, to here we are.
Rewind. My dog also crapped on the floor, yes, so we also had that too.
There was that as well. Yep.
It's been an evening here at the Azzalina household, and I mean, you know what though? It's all good because we're going to talk sports here for the next 45 minutes to an hour, and all will be all right with the world in that time frame.
That's right. We're staying consistent, right? One of the big goals. One of the big goals for the new year was staying consistent. We got to plan out our God, it's already February already. I feel like we just put down all those January dates like a week ago. Yeah. But we'll throw our February dates on the calendar. We've been consistent, this first month. Got the YouTube vids going, man. We're crushing it. And I got our first video got over 50 views on YouTube.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Nuts. Thank you everybody for watching. Appreciate that. Even if you didn't make it the whole way through, thanks for at least trying.
Yeah. Thanks for checking it out. Thanks for subscribing. We got a couple new subscribers, so appreciate that.
Great.
It's doing,
it's great. I bet you like two of them were my mom. She probably subscribed twice.
I love it. We'll take them any way we can get them. Shout out Joe Marie.
Joe Marie. # mom.
My mom did not. She does not know how to use YouTube, so she did not subscribe.
If my mom did subscribe, she accidentally subscribed.
Listen, again, we'll take it. That means she won't know how to unsubscribe, so she'll be there forever.
Exactly. Here's the thing. I promise next week we're gonna be out of the animal room and back down to the basement. I'll get my lighting. I'll get, we're working on headphone possibilities just because there was a slight echo earlier. We're getting there slowly but surely.
Listen, we got a basement tour coming. You're gonna give us the tour of the whole digs. We got some stuff coming, people.
Yeah, make sure maybe I'll record that tomorrow at some point in the boredom of my snow day.
There you go. I love it. I love it.
Regs, this time of year when snow hits and we're all freezing, usually it means that, the players that we love in red pinstripes are on their way to Clearwater and starting to train for the off season. Now, that being said, there will be players in Clearwater in the coming weeks. It won't be anybody on the 40-man roster because they cannot be there due to the lockout. But when you actually think about some of the names who are going to be down there, it is pretty exciting. Like Bryson Stott will be down there. He's not on the 40-man, so he's
good.
able to go down
Yeah.
and start working out right away. Andrew Painter is able to be down there as well. So a couple of the young bucks who aren't on the 40-man but are going to be part of the system. Mick Abel, he'll be down there too. And you almost have to think if this lockout doesn't end in time, maybe they'll start playing games with these guys who aren't on the 40-man just to get some baseball going. I mean, I don't know, but I feel like, we wanted to talk a little bit about where things are at. I mean, there's been no progress.
Yeah.
It's February 3rd, and pitchers and catchers would report basically next week, or the week thereafter, like the early part of the following week. And we're nowhere close. So I guess the question at this point is like, are we going to get this thing going in time? Like, are they going to be able to have a long enough spring training to start the season at the very beginning of April, end of March, beginning of April?
Concerningly, the answer seems to be trending towards no, which is not fun, and very disappointing. I don't know if they would consider like a shorter spring training just to make sure that the regular season hits on time. I wouldn't put that out of the realm of possibilities to happen. Obviously, the regular season games are much more important than spring training games from a TV perspective, right? From a local sports station perspective, those local stations rely a lot on those baseball games being every night, so that's a big deal. I will say that I'm happy that guys like that are being able to go down and start playing some baseball and getting some work in and doing those things. I know we have a lot of hopes for some of those prospects, even though our farm system, has, as it's been written about and talked about, is not in a great spot. So we really kind of hope that those guys at the top of the list really make some big leaps and bounds because we have some spots that they can fill. But I think in general, to your question, I think that they would cut spring training short before they would miss a regular season game, would be my guess.
Yeah, and just to your point on the prospects, like, those three guys aside, there's another dude that I'm excited about who'll be down there, Johan Rojas, an outfielder, young outfielder that could help them in the next few years. But, yeah, I agree with you. I think baseball is so different than it used to be. Back when like John Kruk was playing, he would come into camp pretty out of shape, and I don't just mean him, but I think just in general, players would come in a little more out of shape and need a longer period of time. I don't know that that's necessarily the case anymore. I think these guys do a lot of off-season stuff to keep themselves in pretty good shape to get there. I wonder about the pitchers because of how long it takes to get them stretched out. I think arguably with the pitching, though, like what pitcher goes more than 5 innings anymore?
Yeah, true.
So maybe they would try and get pitchers ramped up a little more quickly, which would cause probably some injuries in rotations. And then there's just the process of like there are still a ton of free agents out there.
Yeah,
like a ton.
I think that's the thing that I'm most interested in because so you'll enjoy this. My oldest son is asking every night at dinner, Dad, who's off the Phillies now? Who decided to leave the Phillies? Like that's what he thinks a trade is they decided they didn't want to play for the Phillies anymore. And I have to try and explain to a 7-year-old what a baseball lockout is, right?
Yeah.
So I keep just saying, oh, they aren't able to do anything yet, buddy. Like, they're just, nobody's gone anywhere. He knows about Hector Neris, he knows he's on the Astros now, so he knows all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But he's been asking me like, Dad, did Rhys Hoskins decide he still wants to play with us? And or all these or I told him the other night, he's like, well, Daddy, who is deciding they don't want to be on the Phillies. And I was like, well, some people are talking about maybe Gene Segura might not be on the Phillies anymore. He's like, really? He gets, not concerned, but into it. So it's interesting that even a 7-year-old baseball fan is sort of recognizing that nothing's happening and there's no news to talk about.
Which kind of leads me to the next question that we wanted to touch on tonight. Well, what does this mean for baseball? Like, think about what's happening. Basketball's picking up. It's around All-Star time, which means we're, trade deadline time, and the playoffs are pretty much around the corner. Like, think about it. Like, once we hit March, our basketball's starting to hit the back end, and we're looking at the playoffs, rolling into to May and June. So, so basketball's hitting that climax point in the season, and football just had two of the best weekends that they could have asked for from a fan standpoint in terms of just pure entertainment, whether your team's in it or not. Like, it was 6 of the most entertaining games that we could have asked for as fans.
Yeah.
So, what does this mean for baseball? I mean, you just mentioned your son who loves the sport, but like, there's no sport to love right now. And for people like us who have already lived through a strike and have been with baseball even without that, like, where do you stand, and where do you think the casual fan stands right now?
I think the casual fan isn't keeping up with this at all. They just know that they might know that spring training starts at a certain time. They might know that pitchers and catchers report at a certain time, and they're going to hear that hasn't happened. That might spark them to maybe read an article or two about what's going on. And then they're going to read an article that they're $90 million off this, bonus pool or whatever it is, right? They're going to read that no progress has happened in 2 months or 3 months or however long it's been. And they're going to be disinterested again until opening day. Like, that's how it's going to be. They're going to be disinterested until opening day. Yeah. Because opening day has become a spectacle, which it should be. Obviously, it's something that you and I look forward to a great deal. And I've been teaching, my sons to look forward to. But I think for a casual fan, they're gonna read 2 articles. They're gonna read about a bunch of rich guys arguing about money, and they're gonna switch it off. They're not gonna care about spring training. They're not gonna care about trades. They're not gonna care about like maybe for their, if it involves their team, they'll care about signings and things like that. But something big's going to have to happen for anyone to be interested again. And I think even for the fans that maybe are just a step above casual, but not quite to crazy, kind of like where we are, they're going to forget about baseball for 6 months, right? Like you said, the baseball playoffs are happening. The Super Bowl's here in a week. Even after that, with, Tom Brady retiring and the signings and, things that can happen in the NFL offseason happen quickly. Coach signings are a big thing that's going on right now.
You don't say. There's nothing going on there.
Right. Yeah, that could be a whole nother episode. We could talk about that stuff. But there's just basketball and football have become 12-month sports. Like, even in their off seasons, they bring a ton of popularity and a ton of weight to whatever conversation is happening. Baseball is not that kind of sport yet. It's just not to the more casual fan. And this can do nothing but hurt that.
Yeah. I say every year that baseball off season is the worst off season in all of sport. Like, basketball and football happen in a flurry, but like, then there's the draft to talk about for both of those sports. I think basketball takes sort of like a hiatus. Like, there's a small hibernation period where people don't remember that basketball exists.
Yeah. But I mean, then you have college basketball,
right. That's
to
what I was
supplement
say.
that. Like,
Yep. And there's that group of really diehard hockey fans too,
for sure,
that follow that every single nook and cranny of that off season, as closely as we would follow baseball. The problem with baseball is that it just takes forever for things to happen, and this year is really adding to that and really magnifying the issues in the off season. So I think right now, I would agree. I do think this really hurts the sport more than anything, because they couldn't afford this,
right.
there's so much skepticism around the sport as it is, with all the rules and back and forth with this rule and that rule. Well, we like the extra inning rule, but we're going to take it away, and we might do DHs, but we might not do DHs, and the game's really slow, so we might put a timer on. The umpires stink, so we might do robots for that instead. Nobody seems to know what the heck's going on, including the people who are actually running the sport.
Yeah.
And as a fan, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. And I think to watch what's happening right now, I didn't even want to spend this long on it because I'm so mad at the sport. But we did have to visit it and just say like where we stand and where fans probably around the country stand, because I Marcus Stroman tweeted yesterday, I feel really badly for baseball fans. And I don't know that there was a more poignant way of saying it. Like it's direct and it's true.
Right.
Like, yeah, selfishly, I do feel badly for myself because this is a time of year I look forward to every year. Every freaking year. This is a time of year I get excited for because baseball's right around the corner. And I know that there will be baseball every single day
Right.
for the next 7 months and 8 months, really. And here we sit, and we might not have a season starting on time. Now, if you gun to my head moment, I would say they're going to start on time. I do think that they will.
Yeah.
I think that there's enough pressure now, and they're feeling that. As a matter of fact, Jeff Passan tweeted today, and I thought this was a really good sign. Major League Baseball today requested immediate assistance of the federal mediator to help resolve the sports lockout, sources told ESPN. Under their request, the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service would help assist with the proceedings. So to me, that means that Major League Baseball is saying to themselves, look, we're suffering.
Right.
Fans are angry, players are angry. We got to figure this out, and we need somebody who's going to come in and help us fix this now.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any more interest from at least the ownership side to drag this on. I think they want to get it done, and they need help getting it done in the way that's going to benefit them, but also make the players at least concede a little bit to some version of happiness.
Yeah. I mean, look, for all, it might be the one smart thing Manfred does in his entire time as baseball commissioner is maybe calling that, mediator. But I think, again, it's in the owner's interest. These guys, like, baseball is not a huge moneymaker. It's not like basketball, right? The valuations of these companies and these teams has not skyrocketed like basketball or football.
Right.
That's not to say it hasn't gone up. It surely has. But these owners aren't on this sort of cloud nine all the time. And especially in the smaller markets, like, it's still a thing, the market you're in baseball. And to an owner who's focused on how much money am I losing, this kind of stuff, if it drags on longer, again, starts affecting real games. That is where all your money comes from, right? Tickets and games is where all your money comes from, right? When people are in your stadium spending money to be there and then spending money on the things in the stadium. Again, I don't want to keep like bringing it back to, me and my kids, but it is like my kids are getting old enough to like, they'll notice if baseball isn't on. We watch all the spring training games. We watch every time it's on, we only have the app being down in Maryland, but every time it's on TV, we have the recordings, we have the game to watch that night. Like, it's become a part of our lives. And it just for a sport that's always on the edge of trying to bring in fans and keep fans, it's just not a great place to be at the moment. But
No.
if the MLB has recognized that and they're trying to take steps to do something about it and get this moving, then good for them. I'm glad they recognize it now and not a month from now.
Yeah, I mean, they need to get something done here in the next week or two to get players to camp, to get free agents signed.
Right.
Something's got to happen. So, from a sport that doesn't seem to care to a sport who, I mean, in a moment you're like, wow, what a crazy 2 week span we had, and now there's so much drama like in the NFL. It is wild what is happening right now all across the NFL. And I think, you said it best. That's a topic for another show. But I think it's probably something we will touch on in the next week or so. I think
Yeah,
there's still a lot that needs to be sorted through. And I don't know that I'm ready to form an opinion yet. I think that I've seen arguments from both sides. I will say that there's some shady stuff happening, especially in that giant process with Brian Flores. But I want to kind of see more information come out, and I
sure.
think we can maybe touch on that next week as more kind of leaks. But I will say I'm not in love with what I saw from the Giants, and I have a great amount of respect for Brian Flores as a head coach, and I thought he was unfairly fired to begin with, and thought he would be one of the first people off the market for one of these head coaching jobs, and really can't believe what happened in New York. And again, think there's something shady going on, but certainly want to see some more information come out. But kudos to him for stepping up, stepping out, and putting his neck on the line for his own future in the coaching world, because there's not great stuff happening there, Regs. I can at least say that right from what we know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very brave thing what he's done, because at the end of this, there's a very good chance that no one will hire him because of what's happening. So he really did this more for the future of people like him in this sport. And I think I completely agree with you that we kind of need to wait for more information to come out, to, this investigation to happen, for the lawsuit to, go through its necessary steps in order for the information, the truth to come out. But I think in general, this has been a thing for a very long time. When you look at the league and only one African-American person is a head coach, in comparison to the amount of African-American players on the field, right, which has always been disproportionate, it's still a shocking thing to see that only one African-American coach is in the entire league. And this is not a new, that particular part of it is not new information. And I don't think it shocks anyone when his accusation is that we're treated differently and unfairly. I don't think it shocks anybody. I think to the level of which this sort of stuff happens, that stuff to kind of come out from behind the curtain will shock people. And I'm sure as more and more comes out, it will be more and more shocking. But I echo what you said. It's extremely admirable of him to do something like this, because I think it is kind of like a death wish to your career. But he's not doing it for himself. He's doing it for, the future generations of African-American coaches and players and all those people who get a bad shake in the NFL. So obviously more kudos to him for his sort of bravery and stepping up.
Yeah, and we'll continue to touch on this as the weeks go on and time goes by. I think there's more information to come, and certainly, I think about the Eagles and sort of their last few coaching searches, and who was always on the periphery of that. Deuce Staley, loved by players, loved by the organization, but always the bridesmaid.
Look, man, it's
Never got to be the bride, and I never quite understood. The players were like outward in their support of him. It's certainly going to be interesting. You talked about the amount of players versus the amount of coaches, and Brian Flores had 2 winning seasons in Miami and was fired, and
potentially despite being offered a lot of money to lose.
How about it?
Potentially.
I mean, this is going to be
allegedly
absolutely just enthralling for the next month or so.
Yeah.
Everything that surrounds this, and certainly I didn't want to go down the rabbit hole. I just wanted to mention it because look, we're heading into Super Bowl week, and that's a celebration of itself. The league has a lot that they have to figure out and a lot they have to navigate here. It's crazy that Bill Belichick might be the one that takes the league down with his stupid text messaging, but kind of hilarious at the same time. So we'll see. I think it's his revenge for Deflategate, if you ask me.
I mean, I don't think you can be shocked when 32 old white rich guys are in the mix, right? Did you think they operated a different way? Did you think it wasn't some like weird cult of people Like it's just it is how it is. And when you compare it, like the NBA's done a really good job of allowing a more diversified ownership to come into the league. Obviously, they've had their problems. Just
Yeah.
cue
Yeah.
Donald Sterling, cue a bunch of
Yeah.
the rest of them, right?
Yeah.
But at least they've recognized it and done something about it. To allow a more diversified set of owners to be in the room and provide opinions. The NFL is still a really rich old white guy club, and when you tell me that they aren't hiring a lot of black people to be their coaches, I'm not that surprised. But
I'll be curious to see what the next few weeks bring, and
yeah,
again, we'll come back to it
yeah,
once
yeah,
there's
yeah.
more information in the lawsuit and all. But it was definitely worth a short conversation here
Yeah.
tonight because I do think Brian Flores should be a head coach, and I'm shocked he's not. Um,
Undoubtedly.
I just don't understand. I'm looking for a reason why he's not a head coach
Can the
after two
Eagles just
winning
take him as
seasons
a
in Miami.
defensive coordinator? I'll take that.
I would love that. I would love that. The guy deserves more though. He deserves
No,
more.
100% agree.
He deserves more. But let's talk just quickly about the Super Bowl. We won't go too far into it, but quick thoughts. You got a young, hungry, fun Joe Burrow and a well-deserving veteran in Matt Stafford who finally found found the right mix of coaching and receivers.
Oh yeah.
Um, to make it to this point. So this might be the first time in a long time, Regs, that I look at this game and say, I truly don't care who wins.
Yeah, I don't think I have a preference either way. I'm not
I do love
a
Joe Burrow, though,
there
and
you
I do
go.
love Matthew Stafford, so I'm good either way.
Yeah, so I can't say I'm a particular fan of any of them. I've always been a Cooper Cup fan because, white guy receivers are, a dime, there's not many of them that can do the things that he does or not just be a slot guy, like a Julian Edelman or
Yeah.
Wes Welker or guys like that.
Yeah.
I think from a quarterback standpoint, I don't lean a particular way. I've never been like I'm not going to say I've ever hated Stafford. Like he's just been in Detroit doing whatever he's doing, right? He hasn't affected, my football life in a meaningful way. I think when I look at it just from a game perspective, I think it comes down to, can this Bengals offensive line give Burrow any protection? This Rams defensive line, they're monsters. Like Aaron Donald continues to show himself as literally maybe the greatest player in football.
Yeah.
And the Bengals have had a horrible offensive line for the year they went 2-16. Like Burrow got absolutely destroyed, and they haven't looked much better. Yeah, I mean they've looked better, luckily, but against a line like this, it's just, can you protect Burrow enough to do the things that he's been doing this entire playoffs? And I think the question is that I think the answer to that question is no. If you had to ask me right now who I think wins, I think it's the Rams just because of that particular matchup.
Yeah.
So again, no preference either way. It'll be a great story either way. So I'm just hoping that it's a good game. And, with, like you said, with the past few weeks of the NFL, everyone's kind of expecting like another overtime, or something to come down to a last second field goal.
Yeah, I kind of got the Rams by like double digits here. If
I
I'm
think
being honest.
Yep. I think if you really think about it, that's probably the right play.
I mean, look, you're gonna have Jalen Ramsey matched up on
Chase,
a really good Jamar Chase.
that dude is something.
But this is going to be his toughest test because Jalen Ramsey is one of the best corners, if not the best corner in football. And you mentioned the defensive line. You talked about Aaron Donald, but they also have Von Miller, who's a future Hall of Famer.
Yep.
And Ernest Jones and Leonard Floyd aren't bad either.
No, it's been that entire group has been playing really, really well this playoffs.
Yeah, it's gonna be a challenge, and I do think that at the end of it all, this defensive front's just gonna get far too much pressure on Joe Burrow, and there's too many weapons on the other side of the ball, with between Cooper Kupp and Odell Beckham Jr. and don't forget Van Jefferson, who's also a really, really good wide receiver.
Yeah.
A guy that I really thought the Eagles would take a look at in the draft, but went another direction, and certainly he's produced. He's a really good route runner and gets open downfield quite easily. So, and Stafford's got the arm to sling it down there. They got three dudes who can get down there, and Stafford's got the arm to sling it. So I think it's probably like Rams by 10 feels right. But I agree. I think that's the key right there is, that defensive front versus the offensive line. Games are won in the trenches, and I just don't know how the Bengals win this game in the trenches.
Yeah. I mean, I think what I noticed from the Chiefs game with the Bengals is that they started breaking off some pretty good runs towards the end to really kind of keep Patrick Mahomes off the field, keep the clock moving, give them the ability to, really bring the time down. Mixon is his name, right? The running back.
Yep, Joe Mixon. Yep.
He's he's good,
Fantastic,
really good. But I just think that line is so good, not only at pass rushing, but at also run protecting. Like who talks about the Rams linebackers? Could you name one of them? I can't.
No, I probably could if I thought hard enough.
I don't even think I heard one mentioned in the game like the other day.
Yeah, no, they're because their front does such a good job.
Exactly.
Their front does such a good job. I mean, I mentioned one earlier when I mentioned Ernest Jones. He is one of their linebackers, but
do they play a 3-4?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, okay. So again, I probably mistook him for a lineman because he's probably lined up out there like Von Miller is.
Yeah. They play 3-4.
But I mean, they're just so good at run stopping as well. So I think that's the running is what allowed sort of that offensive line to give Burrow some time if they establish the run really well. I just don't think they're going to be able to do much against this front. It's just so good. They're just so good.
Yeah. No, I think it's going to be tough too. So we'll see. And certainly we'll talk a little more about it maybe on next week's show as we get closer and see, if there's any news to report about it. But as of now, it's pretty standard. I mean, it'll be an exciting week. I do love Joe Burrow, but an early prediction is that the Bengals will draft offensive line. They will sign offensive line, and they will trade for offensive line this offseason because they're going to see that that's what it takes. You got the quarterback, you've got the weapons, you did enough defensively to make it work this year. You need somebody to protect that franchise. And I will say this, it is very possible that Andre Dillard ends up in a Bengals uniform next year.
Oh God, really?
Oh, very possible. He doesn't play any other position. He serves the Eagles no purpose right now. So, they have guys who can flex out there. So, perfect transition because I do want to talk about the Eagles real quickly. With it being so close to NFL off season. I mean, we're about a month out from the start of NFL off season. Just give me your heading into next year. What are their 5 biggest needs? And you don't have to do them in order. But positionally, you can mix bag it, offense and defense. Doesn't have to be however you want to do it.
Yeah.
Their 5 biggest needs heading into this coming season.
Linebacker.
Who addressed in free agency and the draft. Linebacker.
Can I say secondary twice?
You can do the positions.
All right, corner and safety.
Okay.
I think wide receiver.
Okay.
And then it's either defensive end or running back.
Okay.
I can't decide which one.
All right, I'm going to put / and then I'm going to see if you can see what I wrote down. I'm going to circle what I wrote down earlier. I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not. Can you see what I wrote down?
Cornerback, safety, linebacker, edge rusher, and wide receiver. We were pretty close. Almost exactly.
We were exactly. I didn't put it in order either.
God,
but
should we do a podcast or what, man? I'm
I
telling
feel
you.
like we should, and we didn't talk about that beforehand.
We
You
did
guys saw
not.
me writing down his answers as he spoke.
We did not talk about that.
But I think Regs, here's the thing. If we would have talked about this last year, if we would have had a show last year when you initially wanted me to do it, I think we would have had a similar answer. No,
I almost had a spit take for the first time on YouTube.
no, you did it last show.
Oh, that I almost had another one.
Yeah, you did it last show.
I think that would have been the exact same answer. Yep.
I think it would have been. It would. We definitely would have said linebacker and wide receiver.
Yep.
Definitely would have said.
I mean, in
linebacker,
secondary too. Our secondary was awful last year.
Yeah, and I think last year they focused so much on just band-aids and trying to, find the right mix. This year, I think with what Howie did with the cap and acquiring 3 first-round pick assets, I think we see a very different offseason. And I do think, again, we're going to visit that later, but I was curious to see what your needs were. And I told you before that I wanted to. There's a little trick to that. And my trick was that if we did talk about it last season, this would have been similar. And I think that's purposeful because I think how we did last off season was bridge the gap. He put a Band-Aid on the injury. He didn't really fix it. He didn't give it the surgery it needed. Because I think he knew that they weren't in a place to do that, both cap wise and asset wise. So heading into the season, he has the assets. He's got the 3 first-round picks. If he chooses to trade some of them for a receiver or quarterback, so be it.
So I wanted to ask you that question. What is your opinion on that exact scenario? We have 3 first-round picks. I'll give you my opinion very quickly, but I want your very much more educated and smarter opinion. I want him to use them. I don't want them to be used in a trade. I think, as we discussed at the end, in our recap pod at the, a little bit after the playoff loss, going out and getting a quarterback using those picks doesn't help you that much. It just doesn't. Going out and getting another wide receiver, I don't think helps you as much as those picks could. So I want to know, I'm really, really interested to hear your opinion on what he should do about that.
Yeah, I think I'm on board for another year of Jalen Hurts. And I think what you do is, and I think I've said this before, forgive me if I have, but you've got 3 first-round picks. There's no need to take 3 unless there's a dude there that you love. So what I think you should do is take 2 of those picks and trade out of one, move back and pick up another first rounder for next season or next year's draft. And if Jalen doesn't work out, if he doesn't improve to the level of the type of quarterback you need to win a championship, then you take those 2 picks and you package to move up for the quarterback that you want in the next draft, or you trade for the veteran that you want. Jimmy Garoppolo is not an upgrade. He's going to get traded, not an upgrade.
Yeah.
There's chance that, Russell Wilson's going to be available. I think he's going to be way too expensive, and the Eagles have too many holes that they have to figure out. Now, there's $50 million in cap space here too. So there you can plug holes with that, but you're also, if you're acquiring a Russell Wilson, you're taking his money.
Yeah.
So there's that piece to this as well. So I want them to take 2 of those picks unless a guy drops to the point where you're like, this is a guy we have to have, and we're going to use all 3 of our picks. And we'll figure out the quarterback situation down the line if we have to. Now they're at the Senior Bowl this week, and Howie and Sirianni were both there watching the quarterbacks yesterday. I'm really, really nervous about them taking one of these quarterbacks, and we'll focus on that in future episode. But like a guy like Corral or a guy like Willis, like these dudes who are out there with the tools, and I just hesitate so much on using the pick there when we have a developmental guy already, and so many needs on defense, and so yeah, long way around it. Trade out, use 2 of them, trade 1 out, and fill a bunch of holes in free agency and just ride. That's kind of where I'm at.
Great. I really wanted to get your opinion on that to see what you thought.
Yeah. I think with the need for linebacker, edge rusher, like you can get those in the first round for sure. But if one of the big like safeties or corners falls, you're going to want to consider that there as
Do you
well.
know the number of those picks? Like, where are they?
Yeah, they're 15, 16, 19, I want to
Okay,
say.
so towards the so we're not
Yeah,
getting
like they're in that middle ground.
that Michigan dude.
Aiden Hutchinson?
Yeah.
We sure aren't. We sure aren't. Eagles draft picks. I just want to make sure that I hit that right real quickly before we move on. I'm pretty sure that's where they're at. Cheat sheet. Eagles. They are. I'm sorry, I was wrong. 15, 16. Oh, no, I said that. 15, 16, 19. Yep. 15,
Okay.
16, 19.
Attaboy.
So, and then they have their second round, their third round, their fourth round. They have a fifth from Washington. They have their own
The
fifth.
Commanders.
They have their yeah. How about it? They have their fifth from the Cardinals. For in the Ertz trade, they have their sixth. They have they have Indianapolis as sixth. So plenty of picks here. 10 picks to roll through.
It's a lot in an NFL draft.
Yeah, and a lot in places where you can do damage. I mean, when you have six picks in the first, or I'm sorry, 5 picks in the first 2 days of the draft.
Yeah.
You can
It's a
do
good
some
spot.
damage
It's a
there.
good spot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about 5 guys in the top 100 if you do it right. So, but Howie's got to make the picks, you know? So, all right.
Yeah, again, we'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into that down the line. Let's jump to the team who on fire right now. And I'm just going to come at you right away.
Oh God, here we go.
Tyrese Maxey, man.
Yeah, shit.
Your guy.
Listen.
Guys, go back like 7 episodes or so and hear Regz' take on Tyrese Maxey.
So I did. I went back and I listened to myself. I didn't. I'm gonna cower into my corner a little bit and be a little defensive. I didn't say you would be bad. I just said I wasn't sure, which essentially is calling him bad without having to say it. So the criticism,
which is our whole shtick.
the criticism is warranted. I accept it all. I don't think I saw. I think because like I said, I've been watching a lot of the highlight, the 12, 15-minute highlight videos. Because I don't catch the games. I'm not in the local market. It's almost impossible for me to catch the actual games.
Yeah.
But I've been watching a lot of the highlight videos that the NBA puts out. I don't think I expected him to be this aggressive offensively. Mm-hmm. What I appreciate about him is that he's not afraid to go to the basket. Where we were talking about a few episodes ago, when Tobias was looking old and like settling for a lot of jumpers and not going to the basket, Tyrese doesn't seem to have that hesitancy.
Yeah.
And I think it's a big deal. He's not a good enough shooter to not go to the basket.
Right.
But I think the fact that he doesn't lack the confidence to do it has been kind of the biggest thing that I missed in that whole revelation. And I saw John Calipari tweeted the other day, like, Philly, I told you this guy was going to be good, right, when he was named a rising star.
Yeah.
I'll admit I didn't know he was a Kentucky guy, so that's on me. And you never know, right? Rookies, when they come in, they may or may not have that confidence. Right. It's just one of those things that sometimes you have to build up. He's come in with that confidence. And again, I don't think he's not a completed project. He's not a complete player yet, and that's okay. It's his first year in the league, right? He has many things to learn and get better at, particularly on defense. Like watching him try and get around the screen is atrocious.
Very little.
But I think the confidence that he shows on the offensive side, especially when he's going towards the basket, is a big deal.
Yeah.
So I think from that standpoint, I very clearly got something wrong in terms of how I thought he would handle this type of starting position.
Well, and I think, so let me ask you this. No, wait, we're not going to do that yet.
Okay.
I'm going to say this. One thing that I want to see him do more of is show the same type of aggression when Joel's on the floor. because I feel like when Joe is on the floor, it becomes a little bit more passive. And I look, if you're playing with the should be MVP, you're going to be a little more passive. Like when we were playing intramural basketball, I never shot the ball. Like I just passed it right back to Josh or to Banksy when he was playing with us, or one of you guys, because what the heck am I going to shoot for? Like, also, Regs, next week I'm the captain of our mini-thon staff versus staff basketball game.
Yes.
So,
Why aren't you
captain.
playing?
What's that?
Are you playing captain?
I am playing captain.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is this going to be live streamed somewhere that I can watch?
Actually, it might be. I'll let you know if it is. We're
going to record some stuff and put it on the YouTube channel.
We'll let the Fixated nation know that I'm going to be,
please
out there.
Tweet it out.
Yeah. That would
be awesome.
I mean, we'll live stream right before it. I'll have my fellow principal who's going to be playing. He was Division 1 player.
Jesus. All right. Good Lord.
Yeah. I'll have him like video before the game for everybody.
See you on your team, hopefully.
Yeah, we're playing together.
All right, good.
Matching headbands.
Attaboy. Attaboy.
So that being said, example being, like, I'm not going to shoot when he's on the floor. I'm going to make sure I find him. But Tyrese Maxey has shown, like the other night when Joe didn't play against Memphis, and we marked that down as a loss when we talked about their next six before the deadline. Tyrese Maxey like took that game over. Now, I think Toby had a good game that night too. I think he scored over 30 as well.
Yeah.
But like, that's the type of Tyrese Maxey that's going to help them win games in the playoffs when he's that aggressive. Now he's got to know that he's able to take I think Joe wants him to.
I think that just gets back to, I completely agree. I think that just gets back to being a rookie. And when you got the big dog on the floor, you never want to look like you're not trying to feed him, especially as a point guard. I think if maybe he was a 3 or a shooting guard, it might be a little bit different, but as the point guard on the floor.
Yeah. I mean, for him right now in his second year, it's exciting to watch somebody that shines as bright as he does on the floor, and the confidence that he plays with, and the confidence that Embiid tries to give him too. So that leads me to my question then. If it takes him added to a deal to get Simmons out of here for the right player, do you do it?
I can't say no because there are certain players that I would say yes.
Who's the player you would say yes for?
Damian Lillard.
Okay. I could be talked into it, but I just don't know that he's even on the table.
Klay Thompson.
Caliber.
I'm just talking about that's the caliber, right? Like a Klay Thompson, like a Damian Lillard. I think when you talk about even a Bradley Beal, I think in that situation, I say no.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think when you talk about anything involving the Sacramento Kings, the answer is absolutely no.
Yeah, I agree.
When you talk about CJ McCollum, I think the answer is no.
Yeah.
So it just depends. There's a threshold of player that my answer is yes.
Okay.
But
fair.
Those types of players, I don't think are on the table at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. That's fair. All right. So we're in on Maxey. We're officially.
Yeah, listen, man. I'm flipping the switch.
Tyrese Maxey podcast.
I need him to show me a little more on the defensive end. I have not been liking how he kind of sulks under every screen and allows that guy to get past him. It's like in the past 4 or 5 highlight videos I've watched, it's been unbelievably evident that he just doesn't try that hard. I think he has the skills to be a really good defensive player. And if you want to make up for not having someone like a Ben Simmons on the defensive end, I think Thibault is an unbelievable defensive player. And I think if you can have, with the amount of good point guards that are in this league and with the athleticism that Tyrese has, like if you can be an above average defensive player on some of these guys, it's a huge difference in the playoffs. Forget the regular season, right? I get it. Everyone takes nights off on defense because it's all about scoring points.
Yep.
But in the playoffs, if you can be a menace on defense from that position, it makes a big difference. It makes a really big difference. So I hope that's something he can continue to improve on. But I'm in. I'm with you. I've switched my opinion.
We're officially a Tyrese Maxey podcast.
We are a Tyrese Maxey podcast.
Either get on board or get off the bus because
Yep.
we are riding Tyrese Maxey all the way to the playoffs right now.
Riding him.
So let's go here then. I feel like, we are officially a week out. Next week, when we talk, Ben Simmons will either no longer be a Sixer or he will still be here pissing me off. So it's going to be one of those two things, right? I don't know which one's going to be. If he gets traded before the deadline, we're doing an emergency pod and we're going to celebrate so loudly.
Listen, we'll crack a few more of these bad boys.
I mean, it's good. We're going to celebrate. Have you seen this article that's flown out there?
So you mentioned before the podcast, I sounded really stupid. You sent me the tweet that Joel Embiid put out to Charmin.
Yeah.
And then I was like,
hilarious. By the way.
And I'm like, did he at Simmons? Like, I don't understand what's happening. And you're like, dude, you didn't read any of the articles. And I'm like, I somehow missed all of these, but Ramona Shelburne wrote a huge piece on Ben Simmons.
Couple of highlights.
Yeah,
okay,
let's go through it.
Let's start with this one. According to sources close to Simmons, he's upset that Embiid seemed to blame him for last season's playoff loss, when Simmons did not blame Embiid for Embiid's poor showing in the playoffs against the Toronto Raptors in 2019. Regz. Joel Embiid was a plus 90 in that series. He was the best player on the floor.
I was about to say, they lost to the most ridiculous shot you've ever seen in your entire life in a game 7.
Who was on the ball guarding that shot?
Ben Simmons.
Yeah. And who had to try and save his butt in the corner?
Joel Embiid.
Yeah. How about it? Isn't that crazy? Crazy little thing called love, Regz. It's a joke. Like that quote right there is an absolute travesty. Here you go. In 253 minutes in that series, Ben Simmons was a minus 16.
Holy Christ.
In 245 minutes, Jimmy Butler was a plus 15. In 237 minutes, Joel Embiid was a plus 90.
For anybody who doesn't know what that means, NBA has a plus minus number. It's essentially how good you're playing compared to when you are on or off the court, right? It's like, how good are you and how much value do you bring to the team when you're on the court? 90 is an absurd number. Absurd.
And if we want to break it down into just normal stats in that series, Joel averaged 17, almost 18 a game. Almost 9 rebounds a game in that series, just about 3.5 assists, and he shot 83% from the free throw line. Ben in that series averaged about 12 points, about 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and shot 56% from the free throw line. So, I mean, like, Ben was probably their fourth option on offense in that series, like maybe fifth, because you figure it was Joe, Jimmy, Toby, JJ Redick.
Yeah.
and then Ben.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one quote from that article. Okay. Let me grab the other one for you, because this one's even more of a disaster. The other one was that Simmons doesn't dispute that he didn't reply when Rivers texted, Doc Rivers, the head coach, and called him several times over the summer asking to see him. So he is admitting that he just ignored him. But in hindsight, Simmons feels that Rivers and the Sixers could have done more, like show up at a well-known gym in San Fernando Valley where he was training.
Didn't they try to do that and Simmons said, don't come here? Or am I mixing up timelines?
No. You're not.
Okay, good.
The players did try and go to see him.
I also thought you froze for a second because you were so still when you were doing that.
Yeah, because I'm just
video froze.
I mean, I'll do it again. I don't understand, Regz. I don't understand. And later in the article, or before that, I don't remember where in the article's like 27 pages long, of just absolute trash. But like,
Okay, let's just
some,
say this: not trash from a Ramona Shelburne reporting standpoint. Trash from a
correct. No,
Ben.
no, 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 no.
Trash
Yeah,
from a Ben
absolutely.
Simmons speaking through someone
Sources
else.
stamp. No,
Yeah.
I love Ramona
No,
Shelburne.
I just wanted
Yeah,
to clarify that because I know that's not what you were saying. So
yeah, yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew what we're talking about.
Yeah, 100%. It's just it's so bad to really find. And again, yes, 100% not a Ramona show. She is reporting and doing her job,
She's
and she does it.
unbelievable, by the way.
Yeah, she does it really well.
Yeah.
Um, and
Ramona, if
this,
you're listening, we'd love you have you on the Fixated Podcast.
yeah, and I don't mean any offense
No,
at
no,
all,
no, no, no.
Ramona,
Nope.
at all.
I know you didn't. I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure we clarified.
Yeah, no, I know that their job is extremely hard. I just think that what Ben's trying to do right now and what his camp is trying to do is complete trash. And you know, for him to claim that he has to go to this place or that place or you know to work out. No, Ben, there's this beautiful facility that you could go and work out in, but you choose
He's
to
deciding not to do that.
isolate yourself. Exactly.
You decided to say no to your teammates coming out to see you and talk to you and try and work this out.
Yeah. And it's all because your head coach didn't answer a question that you wanted answered a certain way. Like you didn't like the way he answered the question about your performance in the playoffs and you threw a temper tantrum. I mean, Ben, listen.
Newsflash, your performance was shit.
I spend all day dealing with temper tantrums. And this is a classic one. This is classic Ben. Like a classic temper tantrum. And it's sad that you're a $40 million a year earner and this
21
this
now.
is what the fan base gets. And Shaq called him out on TNT. And apparently he Ben DM'd him. Like, why'd you do that? Like, what? You're gonna call out Shaquille O'Neal? Like a guy who worked so hard to become better at something he wasn't good at because his coaches called him on it and said in press conferences, like, he needs to be better at the free throw line. So what did Shaq do? Shot how many free throws a day during practice? And Ben sulks and goes to his corner and has these articles written from his camp by really respected writers, you know? And as a fan base, we've got to sit and read that and you know, think for a second if we're really at fault as an organization.
So there's a couple things that I just want to get out there, and I know we're in an hour already, and I know, you know, we bring this up because it's a big deal. The fact that you're not speaking on the record shows kind of your character. We already know that you were the one who told your teammates not to come out to talk to you, to try and work this out. Joel said what he said in the heat of the moment and was perfectly justified in saying it. To say that if you want to be paid like you're going to be paid, you can't act that way in the playoffs. And then here's where it gets tough. And I don't really know how to put it other than it's sounding more and more like he's hiding behind this mental health thing. Like I'm just not in a state of mind to be there.
Mm-hmm.
I can't go in the facilities because I'm not in, like, my mental health won't allow me. Then don't bitch about not being able to go to the facilities to work out. Don't have someone in your camp say it's a huge inconvenience, which was another quote in that article. That someone in the camp said it's a huge inconvenience to have to figure out all these places that you have to go to work out.
Something about having to drive around Philadelphia or something,
or New Jersey, or wherever.
Sure, you're driving. You're driving, Ben.
Or wherever he's going. You know, they named a local high school from my old stomping ground. Like I literally played that high school multiple times throughout my years in high school. But and again, I can't speak to someone's mental health.
Yeah,
no one knows what's going on. No, I'm not. But when you contradict that statement and then blame other people for it is where I start to think you're just sort of hiding behind this because you got called out. You got called out for not having the stones to shoot in a playoff game. and
Yep.
now you're now you're
I
getting
wonder,
called out about it.
I wonder where all of this goes if he and when he gets traded. Like will he be on the floor within a week? Probably.
Yeah, probably.
Probably. And will he ever put a jersey on in the Wells Fargo Center again? Probably not.
Not that's blue and red and white.
But I'll tell you, well, I just don't see him ever playing in that stadium. I'd be shocked if he played in another jersey in that stadium because he knows what happens.
I think it'll happen.
Regz, the JD Drew treatment was something. This would be an entirely different level of just not to say they'd throw things at him.
No.
But that dude, they're gonna rip him apart.
Dude, that's a
live
show for sure. We should get tickets to that.
I would go just to watch what
That's
happens.
what I mean.
I don't even think I would participate. I think I would just watch.
Yeah, just sit there and watch. Yep.
Yeah, just again, not to we can't get in someone's head.
Right.
And we don't know exactly where, but like, I mean, he's working out at gyms. There were pictures and videos leaked of him working out other places, and he's clearly in a space to play.
Yeah.
He just wants to pick and choose where that's going to be.
Yeah.
And it is frustrating from a fan standpoint because I think we really gave Ben the benefit of the doubt as a fan base many times. We stood and cheered for him when he took a three and missed it. And here we are, watching a team that's shorthanded as a result of his ego. And that stinks. It stinks from a fan base perspective. And once again, all respect to the writer of the article.
Yeah. Of course.
It is a very well written article. If you have not read it, you should read it.
And listen, if you're going to get someone to,
it's hard to swallow.
If you're going to get someone to even speak on the record who is just taking quotes directly from Ben, but they're willing to speak, of course you write that article.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. Like, Ramona is not a person known to ever not be truthful or seek out the most truthful sources, right? She does not have that reputation by any means. So, but the fact that Ben wouldn't just speak to her directly, I think is more what we're talking about. It's not Ramona's reporting of it.
No, it's frustrating to sit there and read that as a Sixer fan, and be okay with that as what's really happening.
Right.
And again, she did her job and she did it well. It's a well written article. Read it if you haven't had a chance to. Just as a diehard Sixer fan, hard to read.
Yeah.
And to truly soak in. So, real quickly, let's just touch on this. There's been recent rumors about Bradley Beal. You mentioned him earlier.
Yep.
I'm all in. If that's who they get for him, I think they're legitimate championship contenders. As long as Maxey does not go in that deal, I think they're legitimate NBA championship contenders.
He's asking for a $508 million max, though.
That's going to be a hard thing to accomplish.
Yeah. That's what he's asking from Washington right now.
Well, I think he wants out of there.
Sure, but that's the number he's looking at.
Well, I don't know if he's getting that number anywhere. So
fair.
He might have to come down a little bit, especially if he wants to try and win. And he's got 2 or 3 years, not including this one, to come over here and play with Joel Embiid, who is the most dominant player on the planet.
Yeah.
And try and win a couple titles together with guys like Seth Curry and guys like Tyrese Maxey. They can make that happen. They need to. This is the right guy. I've been saying for a long time they need a closer, a dude who can create his own shots at the end of games, so that teams aren't just sitting there saying, "Well, they're going to go to Joe."
Yeah.
But that's something Bradley Beal can do. He can create his own shot. He can make his own shot. And he's a threat.
Yeah.
He's a threat from every level.
Absolutely.
Every level to score the basketball. And,
absolutely.
And he's a great compliment to Joel Embiid. And if Joe and Tyrese can continue doing what they're doing, and then Toby's your 4th, maybe 5th best scorer because of Seth Curry. So it's there. It's in front of them, and I hope that they find a way to get that done, because I think it makes them immediate title contenders for sure.
Yeah.
So, and last but not least, I think Danny Green asked Devontae Smith on his podcast today if they should trade Ben Simmons, and he said, "Listen, if I were in that seat, I would do it. I would trade him." So, Devontae Smith, you are officially a Philadelphian, my friend. And you know what? So is the writer of the article. Listen, Ramona, we love you.
No, again, I didn't think you thought anything about her. I wanted to make sure that when we said the article was trash, it was more from a Simmons perspective, not a writer perspective.
Yeah, no, Ramona's incredible, and I apologize, and I'm gonna kiss her ass until the end of the show. So,
right.
Real quickly before we go, a different fixated tonight, Regz.
Here we go.
It's a different one, so buckle in. You know what we should do at one point, Regz? We should put background music to the fixated.
Ooh, that's a good idea. All right, I'll start looking at that.
Like slow classical music.
Yeah.
I feel like would be like really good. I'll sip on cognac or something.
I'll send you a couple samples.
So, okay. Gonna salute Tom Brady tonight, Regz. And he's retiring after the reports came out that he was retiring, that he disputed and then came back and retired the next day.
Do you know why he did that?
In classic Tom Brady fashion.
Do you know why he did that?
Why did he do that?
Someone said he made an extra $12 million in his contract if he waited till Tuesday.
What a guy. What a guy. What a guy. Classic Tom Brady. Well, I mean, here's the thing. We've been really lucky in our lives to see greatness. And that's kind of what I'm fixated on, just the opportunity to watch greatness. And whether it's Michael Jordan, for all the years we got to watch him, or those great Phillies teams that we got to watch, or even those great Yankees teams as we were growing up, Barry Bonds, like we could go for days on the amount of great athletes. Tiger Woods, who you and Banksy described so eloquently on the Two-Way Mish. Shout out.
Appreciate that. Thank you, buddy.
You got it, bro. And just there's greatness in every corner we turn in our sports fandom, and Tom Brady is no exception to that. His 7 rings is nothing. He's got more rings than any franchise in the league. And we could sit here and debate back and forth about Deflategate, Spygate, like all of it. And I mean, we suffered if Spygate was true. I mean, as Eagle fans, we suffered from that. And at the end of it all, you still have to win the football game. And Tom Brady won a heck of a lot of them in his career.
Yeah, he did.
And so we do have to appreciate from that side of things that, he won a lot of games, and everybody said, "Oh, you can't do it without Belichick." And then he goes to Tampa and wins while Belichick struggled without him in New England.
Yeah.
So, all that being said, whether he deflated footballs or they watched cameras, and yeah, I'm being a little passive aggressive about it, but we still got to watch one of the greatest to ever do it. I mean, his composure in the waving minutes of football games, maybe with the exception of the 2018 Super Bowl, Brandon Graham, Brady's direct on the turf. Aside from, that the NFC East owns Tom Brady, that, this guy was great, and he's a shoo-in for Canton, and it's well deserved that he'll be there. So tonight I'm fixated on the opportunity to watch greatness. Being a very average, below average athlete myself, it's fun to watch guys who are so great at their craft, and the fact that he could do this for nearly 25 years is absolutely, at that level of play, is absolutely unreal. So kudos to him, and a thank you to him for for showing that can be the case, and an ultimate thank you for him for the fumble in 2018.
Listen, we still almost left him too much time.
Yeah, but thank you to him for throwing a Hail Mary that just didn't quite do what it needed.
Oh my
to do.
God. I'm getting nervous just thinking about when that ball went in the air.
And for not shaking Nick Foles' hand. I really want to thank him for that too.
Yeah.
Because it gives us ammo for him just being a really bad loser. So, Tom, I salute you today. A tremendous career in all honesty and all sincerity. The greatest of all time. And I don't think there's really a debate there. So, congratulations on your retirement. I'm sure we'll see you in Hollywood at some point. If not, behind a desk as an analyst, one way or another, you'll be back.
For sure.
You'll be back. And it's a well-deserved retirement. So kudos to you. And thanks again for 2018. I'll never forget it.
Listen, one of the greatest tweets I've ever seen is that somebody said the Eagles will forever be the last team to beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl.
We sure will be.
And I think, there's nothing much more you have to say about that, right?
Should have worn my Eagles hat tonight.
Yeah, it's all right. I like that hat. It's good. So we jumped all over the place tonight. A great podcast. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Make sure that you go check out the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of the content we have coming up. Like I said, we are on this consistency. We will be back every week to talk about all the things going on in Philly sports and, a couple things outside Philly sports to keep everybody up to date with everything. But as always, a huge thank you to Azzy for all the work that he puts into this show. A huge thank you to everybody out there for watching on the YouTube channel and listening wherever you get your podcast. Be sure you follow us on Twitter at the Phixated Pod. Go search YouTube, Birdies and Beer Podcast, subscribe to the channel, and we will catch you next week with another episode. Thanks, Azzy. Have a good night, bud.
Take care, everybody. We love you, Ramona.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.